Part 1: The Explosion and the Underground Hell. On Friday, February 26, 1993, New York City was experiencing another cold winter day. At the southern edge of Manhattan stood the World Trade Center, two massive towers that dominated the skyline. Inside, thousands of office workers, tourists, and employees were moving through what felt like an ordinary workday. The Twin Towers were not just buildings, they were symbols of global trade and American power. As noon approached, restaurants and underground parking levels reached their busiest hours. No one noticed a yellow rental truck crossing from New Jersey into Manhattan. No one imagined that within minutes, it would permanently change America's sense of security. The yellow Ryder truck was parked on the B2 level of the public parking garage beneath the North Tower. Inside the vehicle was a powerful homemade bomb, weighing nearly 600 kilograms. It was built using nitrate-based explosives and reinforced with hydrogen tanks. After setting a timer, the attackers left the area. At exactly 12:17 p.m., the bomb detonated. The explosion was so strong it was felt across both New York and New Jersey. Seismographs briefly registered it as a small earthquake. At the center of the blast, concrete floors were ripped apart, forming a massive crater several stories deep. Dozens of vehicles were instantly crushed. Critical structural columns suffered serious damage. People were thrown from their seats. Ceilings collapsed. Panic spread instantly. Inside the towers, chaos followed. The blast disabled the main electrical systems of the North Tower, including emergency generators. Thousands of people were plunged into complete darkness. The building's ventilation system began pulling thick black smoke upward through stairwells and elevator shafts. Many people started choking before they understood what was happening. Elevators stopped between floors. Hundreds were trapped inside narrow cabins, slowly filling with smoke. Others entered stairwells with no light, trying to descend more than 100 floors in total darkness. On the 72nd floor, a group of kindergarten children became trapped with their teachers. Surrounded by smoke and darkness, the teachers began singing songs to keep the children calm. At the same time, firefighters climbed upward carrying heavy equipment, while civilians struggled downward in panic. The stairwells became scenes of fear, exhaustion, and confusion. When rescue teams finally reached the B2 level, they froze. Steel beams were bent. Concrete slabs had collapsed. The parking garage had turned into an underground crater. It was clear this was a carefully planned terrorist attack. As rescue operations continued, FBI and counter-terrorism units were already mobilizing. For the first time on this scale, American soil had been attacked at the heart of Manhattan. By the end of the day, 6 people were dead. More than 1,000 were injured. But one question remained. The smoke had not fully cleared. Thousands of people were still being evacuated. But deep underground, a very different operation had already begun. Teams from the FBI, ATF, and the New York Police Department entered the ruins beneath the World Trade Center. What they saw looked like a battlefield. Concrete columns were shattered. Water pipes had burst. Luxury vehicles were crushed beyond recognition. At first, there was hope. Hope that this had been an accident, a transformer failure, a technical malfunction. That hope disappeared quickly. The evidence was clear. This was a bomb, and it was deliberate. Investigators began an almost impossible task. Thousands of tons of debris were carefully examined by hand. Every piece of metal, every fragment of concrete, every burnt object was documented. Days passed, then weeks. At the deepest point of the crater, something unusual was found. A twisted metal object buried in mud and ash. It was part of a truck axle. When the debris was cleaned away, a critical detail appeared. A 17-digit number was still visible, a vehicle identification number. That number changed everything. Records traced the truck to a Ryder rental location in New Jersey. Agents moved fast. Surveillance footage, rental documents, signatures. The name matched across all records. Mohammad Salama. What happened next shocked even seasoned investigators. Just days after the bombing, Salama called the rental office. He claimed the truck had been stolen. Calmly, he asked for his $400 deposit to be refunded. $400. Federal agents immediately set a trap. On March 4th, 1993, Salama walked into the rental office. Unaware that undercover agents were waiting, he approached the counter. He asked about his money. Seconds later, he was tackled to the ground and arrested. This single mistake collapsed the entire operation. Keys found on Salama led investigators to a storage unit in New Jersey. Inside, they discovered a fully equipped bomb-making site. Sulfuric acid, nitric acid, chemicals identical to those used in the attack. The evidence was overwhelming. As the investigation expanded, More names emerged. Nidal Ayad, Mahmoud Abahalama, Ahmed Jaja. Each arrest revealed another layer of a tightly organized cell. But one figure was missing. The man who built the bomb. The strategist. The mastermind. Ramzi Youssef. By the time the explosion shook Manhattan, he was already gone. Within hours, he boarded a plane and vanished overseas. Authorities now understood a painful truth. This was not a local crime. This was international terrorism. And the hunt for Ramzi Youssef had just begun. While the suspects were being arrested one by one, the true architect of the attack had already vanished. His name was Ramzi Youssef. He was not a random extremist. He was a trained engineer, educated in the United Kingdom, with advanced knowledge of explosives and structural damage. Court records later revealed how precise his plan had been. The truck bomb was not placed randomly. It was positioned as close as possible to the main structural columns of the North Tower. Yusuf's goal was clear. He wanted the explosion to sever the core columns, causing the North Tower to collapse into the South Tower. If that chain reaction had succeeded, the death toll would not have been 6. Experts later estimated it could have reached 150,000 people. The fact that the towers remained standing was not the result of strong security. It was the result of imperfect execution. That day, New York survived by chance. After the bombing, Ramzi Youssef did not stop. He continued planning mass casualty attacks. In the Philippines, authorities uncovered what became known as the Bajinka plot. The plan was to detonate bombs on 12 American passenger aircraft simultaneously while they were in the air. He also considered an assassination attempt against US President Bill Clinton. For 2 years, Youssef remained hidden. His escape ended in February 1995 inside a hotel room in Pakistan. FBI agents and US diplomatic security service officers captured him without warning. When he was transported back to the United States, a helicopter flew over the World Trade Center. An agent pointed down and spoke. "Look," he said, "the buildings are still standing." Youssef looked back and replied calmly, "If I had more money and more explosives, they wouldn't be." Ramzi Youssef was sentenced to life in prison, but his story did not end there. Years later, investigators uncovered a critical connection. Ramzi Youssef was the nephew of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the man who would later design and oversee the September 11th attacks. The 1993 World Trade Center bombing was not an isolated event. It was a test, a rehearsal, a way to study America's response time, emergency procedures, and structural vulnerabilities. After the attack, security focused on underground threats, parking garages, vehicle bombs, physical barriers. But the real danger was evolving. No one seriously imagined that the next attack would come from the sky. Today, at the 9/11's memorial, the names of the 1993 victims are engraved alongside those lost in 2001. Their deaths are often overshadowed by what came later. But history makes one thing clear. February 26, 1993 was not the end of a story. It was the beginning. After the smoke cleared and the suspects were placed behind bars, one question refused to disappear. How could such an attack be planned in one of the most protected cities on Earth? The 1993 World Trade Center bombing was not only a terrorist act, it was a failure of intelligence, coordination, and imagination. As investigations continued, a disturbing truth emerged. The FBI had placed an informant inside the terrorist cell long before the attack. His name was Ahmed Salem, a former Egyptian military officer. He reported on the group's activities, their plans, and even their bomb-making process. But internal disputes between Salem and the FBI led to a breakdown in communication. Surveillance stopped. Monitoring ended. The bomb was built while no one was watching. This moment became one of the greatest missed intervention opportunities in American history. From a technical perspective, the attack also shocked architects and engineers. The Twin Towers had been designed to withstand aircraft impacts, but the effect of a massive underground explosion on critical support columns had never been fully calculated. The blast stripped fireproofing from steel columns, leaving the structure vulnerable. Experts later confirmed that if the truck had been parked just a few meters closer, the tower could have collapsed that day. Survival came down to luck. After the attack, security protocols changed dramatically. Vehicle access to underground parking garages was restricted. X-ray screening, ID checks, and reinforced barriers became standard. City streets were redesigned with concrete bollards to prevent vehicle-based attacks, but the greatest mistake was conceptual. Authorities focused almost entirely on underground threats: vehicle bombs, parking structures, physical barriers. Scenarios involving airborne attacks were dismissed as unrealistic. Terrorism, however, was evolving. For radical groups, the 1993 bombing was not a failure. It was a test, a rehearsal. Ramzi Yousef's uncle, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, studied the results carefully. Emergency response times, evacuation procedures, structural weaknesses, government reaction speed. They did not succeed in 1993, but they learned. If the warning signs had been fully understood, if intelligence agencies had shared information more effectively, history might have taken a different path. Today, the 1993 bombing is often remembered as a footnote, but in reality, it was the first shockwave of a new era, a signal that traditional security thinking was no longer enough. The lesson is clear. Security is not only about stronger walls, it is about understanding how the threat itself is changing. On February 26, 1993, the towers remained standing, but the world's sense of safety did not. That day was not the end, it was the beginning.